What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given here with your afternoon snap, and today's video is super special because these are the games that got me to Infinite this season. At the start of this game, I was ranked 97.5, and we're gonna watch the journey all the way up to rank 100. I did split this up into two videos. It was 12 games in total. So we're gonna look at 6 games today and 6 games tomorrow. And then I'll probably have some more videos on this deck in the future. I actually used it to go from rank 80 up to rank 100. So I've got a lot of sweet highlights to showcase. Subscribe and stay tuned if you wanna see some more. But for right now, let's talk about this game, and I'll talk about the deck a little bit as well. It's got Armor, Cosmo, and Shang-Chi as some really good tech cards, and then Arrow and a Leader atop the curve. Lizard and Maximus are just good cards with some slight drawbacks, but otherwise really good stats, though they do have some nice synergies with the deck occasionally as well. You can play Maximus into a Cosmo lane. That's always pretty powerful, and actually it's powerful enough that my opponent's gonna snap. And we know that they're snapping because of this, because we have their Maximus from Daily Bugle. So I was pretty confident that we should be staying in it here. We're even going to be playing a bigger Maximus than my opponent this turn. So felt pretty confident. And then the rest of the deck is Devil Dinosaur focused, or Devil Dinosaur themed, you could say. Devil Dinosaur is a really big card. We're paying 5 energy here, and we're getting 13 power on the board. And that's due in part to some of the synergies. We've got Sentinel, Moon Girl, and White Queen to keep our hand big. And then while we're keeping our hand big, we could also use QUINJET to help cheat those cards out a little bit cheaper. And those have some really important factors to them as well, which we'll take a look at in some other games today. Some of those will be QUINJET games. And this game's kind of vanilla. We just kind of play a big Devil Dinosaur, and then we're gonna play Leader. We are currently down by 1 in the Daily Bugle, so we'll play Leader, Devil Dino will go down by 2, and we'll be winning Daily Bugle by 1 point. So regardless of what my opponent plays here, we should be looking pretty good. However, my opponent's deck also plays some interesting tech cards. It's just kind of a good stuff deck without any type of synergy, and I've seen this player on the ladder. They've raked me for some decent cubes in the past, this Astra player, and they're gonna rake me for some cubes again in this one, though I think we'll get the last laugh, as you'll see. But they are going to Shang-Chi, our Devil Dinosaur, which means we lose this one. But my next 2 games were also against this same opponent, so we will be able to win some of those cubes back. And this game's a Sinister London game, which is nice because it's going to give us an additional Devil Dinosaur later on, and Nova Roma is even going to make that Devil Dinosaur a little bit bigger. We will just have to avoid that Shang-Chi this time, though I think we'll be able to with Arrow as a nice tech card on the final turn. Daily Bugle again will give us another card in our hand, and again actually gives us Maximus from my opponent. I'm just going to throw that right down into Sinister London. Maximus really doesn't even have a drawback here because both of us have so many cards in our hand that my opponent's not even going to be giving me any cards when they play the Maximus. So they snap again. Kind of crazy how similar both of these games are, but we have the same play. 3 energy for 14 power, barely a drawback. We're giving my opponent 1 additional card here, but it's really not going to matter too much. At the very least, they're not getting that far ahead on us in power, as we also get to hit them with their own Maximus here. We draw a Leader off of Maximus. We would have drawn it here for turn, as now we are unable to draw. And from here, things are a little bit awkward. We don't have a great play. I'm at first thinking Lizard, just because it's the most power, though I do think, especially if we drop Lizard into Sinister London, they are going to hit 4 cards there. So I'm just going to play Moon Girl, so that's 4 energy for 8 power. And my opponent plays a Crossbones. That's actually what their deck is doing, trying to grab an early priority and fire back with Crossbones for a nice little lead. So kind of cool. Haven't seen too much in the way of Crossbones deck, but we are going to get them back. We've drawn a ton of cards this game, so we get to play a double Devil Dinosaur here for a total of 30 power. Pretty crazy. And that actually gives us priority lead. Now we're winning in Sinister London and Nova Roma just off the fact of that dinosaur. And Arrow from here basically just seals my opponent's fate. We're going to force them to play into the Daily Bugle. They won't be able to Shang-Chi us, and they won't be able to stop our dinosaurs. So I go ahead and snap, maybe getting a little bit cocky, and that's going to cause Astro to immediately retreat. We'll see that in a second. But we still have one more game against this same opponent to try to win back some more of those cubes. Our final game against Astro, we flip over a Cosmo and they have a Mr. Fantastic, but what is really fantastic is QUINJET. So I'll talk about that a little bit for this game. It's really, really fantastic, specifically when paired with either Moon Girl or White Queen. A typical curve with this deck is turn 4 White Queen, turn 5 you get to play their best card, and then turn 6 you play Leader, and you play their best cards again. And that is exactly what we are planning to do on this one, though. The curve is a little bit messed up due to Superflow. That was actually turn 3. So we can't just play Leader for the rest of the game, but if we could take a look at this board here. We could play a Leader right now into the hub, which ties us up in that location, and then we're actually winning the game if we just played Leader, because we're losing by 2 on Superflow, but we're tied in the center and we're winning by 5 on Xandar. So it would be really, really tough for my opponent to win this one. I go ahead and snap thinking we could just Leader, and I'll be honest, I actually got a little bit confused because of the Superflow. It made me think that this was turn 5 and that next turn we would just be able to play Leader and win, though this game's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. And Vision also makes this game a little bit more complicated than that, because Vision can now move around, which means we're not just going to be able to win by straight up playing Leader. Now, like I said, I was a little bit confused thinking that this was the last turn of the game, and so my initial plan is to play Leader into the hub and then move Vision over to Superflow. But then I realized, wait a minute, we still have one more turn in the game. I'm trying to drag Vision back into my hand. I'm all sorts of confused right now. We're almost out of time, and I'm going to drop Arrow into Superflow, and then real quick I read Dagger to see if it has any interactions with Arrow, and when I realize that it doesn't, I'm just not even going to play it. I'm just going to hold off on playing that card. Now, my opponent plays Leader and takes the lead from us here, because now they are ahead by 6 in Superflow, and we're only ahead by 5 in Xandar, though we will flip that back in our favor with a Leader play of our own. So it's basically all that we have to do is play Leader, and then we're ahead on total power, and that should allow us to beat any type of differentials here. So that's the plan. I do have to figure out where we're putting this Leader and where we're throwing Vision, and I've been moving around Vision a little bit because I also want to anticipate my opponent playing 2 cards into Xandar. We've seen many times throughout this set that they've played a Maximus into Cosmo, and they could certainly add a bunch of power there on the final turn of the game as well. So that's just something I want to be aware of and not have that location too clogged in case my opponent tries to do anything tricky. But we're going to move over our Leader, and they're going to make us play it there anyways with an Arrow, but this is pretty cheeky. The Arrow moves over my opponent's Nightcrawler, which means that we still have enough power to win in Superflow, and we win in the hub because my opponent no longer has a Nightcrawler there. Pretty fun set. Ultimately, we do get the best of Astro, though I know they've taken me for a lot of cubes in the past as well. In this game, my opening hand is just insane. We've got QUINJET, and then we can go turn 4 Moon Girl into turn 5 and turn 6 Leader. So I'm going to snap right off the rip, and my opponent decides to snap back as well. Not sure if they've got something good or they're just being a bro. They throw us the bro fist emote there, and I'm happy to see it. I'll play for some more cubes, especially with a hand as good as this. I will often snap when I have the turn 1 QUINJET, but this is like the best possible hand that you can have with the deck. Our second location is going to be the hub, which gives us a little bit of a cheaper strong guy. Now, I don't think we'll have any chance of emptying our hand, considering we're going to be playing a turn 4 Moon Girl and then just 1 card each of those next 2 turns. But either way, it is cool that QUINJET sometimes has some synergies with the locations, and I'm sure we'll see a little bit of that in, if not today and tomorrow's video, definitely some of those highlight videos that I've got coming up. My opponent's going to play a turn 3 Rescue that they ramped out with Psylocke, so they're doing pretty good as far as winning in Muir Island goes, but as long as we can just stay even with them in the other locations, we're going to be able to play leaders there. That's going to be really, really tough for them to beat. They drop a Mojo into Muir Island to finish that location off, and like I said, now we can just play leader into Necrotia and the hub, and then next turn play another leader, and we'll be winning in both of those locations because we'll have +4 power from our leaders. And that was basically my plan, though I was thinking it might be better to just play leader into Muir Island for now. And part of the reason that I was at least thinking about that play is maybe my opponent will play like a Serra this turn and then next turn fill all of their locations, at which point I'll just want to have more options in terms of where I'm playing my leader. Now, turns out they actually play Arrow, so we just steal that and we're beating them by 2 in Necrotia. So as long as we play leader into the hub and they don't play 4 cards there, then we'll be able to win that location. So that would be the only thing that could trip us up a little bit, but then I realized there's a better play. We can just Shang-Chi and totally destroy my opponent in Muir Island because all of their cards have gotten a bunch of bonuses. This will kill their rescue and their Mojo, because their Mojo is going to get +6 as soon as I play that Shang-Chi, and then I've got 3 energy left over, or rather 2 energy left over to drop that cheaper Cosmo that I also picked up from Moon Girl. Now, my opponent's actually going to play a blue Marvel here, which means that I also destroy their Sunspot. I think I was going to win this game either way, but this was a pretty powerful Shang-Chi on the final turn and allows us to take my opponent for 8 cubes. This one is really fun. We find the Daily Bugle as our first location, and we already have Quinjet to make that arrow a little bit cheaper, and then we find another arrow, and we've got the White Queen. I'm gonna go ahead and snap. Like I said, I normally snap with this deck when I've got the turn 1 Quinjet, so I'm feeling good. We've got a lot of different options, and there's a lot of different ways this one can play out. Now, my opponent also has a Quinjet, so they might hit us with a bunch of crazy things as well. And then I realized that's actually my Quinjet. That's what they took from the Daily Bugle. I realized that it had the green border there, so they actually just stole that from us and didn't really grab that much value. Sokovia is going to be location number 3. That discards our Moon Girl and my opponent's Giganto. I'm gonna throw down armor this turn, and then my opponent plays Swordmaster, and I start to realize what they're up to. They're actually playing a Reanimator deck, and they got to discard a Giganto for free. So they're gonna go ahead and snap. They are also feeling confident, and yeah, this one could get a little bit tricky potentially. I play White Queen here, and I'm thinking maybe we could potentially steal Hela from them. Now, it's not like we steal it. They'll still have the chance to play it as well, but maybe that could give us a lot of power. We could play Hela next turn, and that would like allow us to grab a free Moon Girl off of Sokovia. I don't know, seemed cool, but Death is actually a really good card to prevent your sweet cards from getting stolen, because you're always going to wind up stealing Death instead. So we got blocked there, probably just should have played the cheap Arrow, though I was thinking maybe there was some opportunity for me to play Arrow and finish this game off strong. My opponent's going to play a Lady Sif, finally discarding that Death, and then this turn, they're probably just going to drop Hela. And they're probably just going to play Hela into Sokovia. They can't play it in the big house, and it doesn't really do enough for them in the Daily Bugle. So initially I'm thinking Arrow might be cool, just try to throw down a whole bunch of power, until I realized that Cosmo could actually get my opponent pretty good here. We just have to predict where we think they're going to play their Hela, and then we should be able to find the win. I also throw down Maximus in that location, and looks like they did throw Hela into Sokovia, so we get the win. This is the final game that we're going to look at today, and after playing this game, even while I was playing this game, I just felt like something cosmically was telling me I was going to be hitting infinite with this game. Now, we've got the turn 1 Quinjet, so I'm going to go ahead and snap when we play our 1 energy 4 power Quinjet. I don't really have any synergies currently in my hand, but maybe we'll draw into those. I just like to snap when I've got the turn 1 Quinjet because it's so powerful in the deck. And we've got a nice curve here with turn 2 armor and then a turn 3 Cosmo to protect my cards and mess around a little bit with what my opponent is trying to do. So I definitely like this curve. And then turn 3, here's where some of that crazy luck begins. My opponent flips over an arrow from Sakar, and we Shang-Chi it. I don't even know why their arrow flips over first when we have priority, but I'll take it, and I'll take their arrow out with us. So now I'm just gonna play a Cosmo, and then we'll see this luck continue here with X-Mansion after this turn ends. We're gonna flip over our 5 power Cosmo, so really getting away with it in Wakandan Embassy, and then we flip over an Abomination, and my opponent doesn't have a bad card here. They've got Jubilee, which is still okay, but it's not going to give them anything great, just a Mysterio, and it fills up half of their slots. So we definitely got a better end of the deal there. On turn 4, I'm gonna throw out Moon Girl, and then we've got Arrow, and this is just something that I also really appreciate out of the deck that I didn't really get to talk about yet. Even with Arrow not getting discounted, though here the discount is relevant, we can play turn 5 Arrow, and then turn 6 we can go Arrow plus a Lizard to lock up some other lanes, and just overall it's extremely powerful. But Arrow's also going to disrupt my opponent here. I see that they've got a Nova, so I'm like, okay, well, you're probably going to try to destroy the Nova this turn, and if not, maybe you'll try to destroy it next turn, and we could get you with some fancy footwork. But Arrow is going to move Carnage over into X-Mansion instead, which just means that we're now crushing my opponent in that location too, and they didn't get to blow up their Nova, so pretty awkward stuff. Now we've got the leader for the final turn as well, and yeah, my opponent wasn't getting out of that one. So with a victory, that puts me up to 99.5. Very, very close to hitting infinite, and we're gonna get there in tomorrow's video. But for today, that is gonna be it. So thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Luck's Given. Peace.